I got this email that Bria brought in. A guy named Tony DiStefano asks, "Why are people in the music industry so nasty? Music business so nasty?" This is word for word what he said. I think it's because there are so many people out there that sing and play guitar and such that good customer service is out the window. No one cares about people like me. If I'm not a big Grammy winner, like you apparently, then I'm just a POS. Wonder what that means. You don't have to answer my question. I'm only trying to make a point. And Michael Laska would say that I am again abusing his company for having the nerve to try his service and find out that it's not a good fit. Uh, by the way, I do Americana. Ever heard of it? The pros like me.
This is awesome. Like he's got 30 great questions in here.
Right. The pros like you tell me I do the best Americana they ever heard, and Michael seems to have no idea what it is. Well, thank you, Tony. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Well, you know what it is because you've talked to me about it 100 times. Americana.
Americana, that's right.
You know, it's a funny thing about the business and its ups and downs can be brutal. We know this, right?
Right.
And I think that, you know, reading in between the lines, you know, we all get frustrated, and you can feel there's some frustration in there, right? If you've had songs on the radio and things on the charts and some measure of success, you know, why doesn't anybody listen to me? Mm-hmm. We all have the same problem. It does not really matter unless you're the guy that has that top 10 record today.
Right.
You know, it's not, it sounds
cold.
It sounds cold, and it really is. But it's just the nature of the business. The idea that, you know, we always have to, you know, we always have to reinvent ourselves. We always have to try to get just a little bit better every day. We need to get that next hit. We need to write that next melody. A song is never finished. We're constantly at work at this in this business, 24/7.
Absolutely.
And that can be a grind. It can really be a grind, and it can take its toll on creative people, especially when, you know, you come in and you've worked hard on something and you bring it to someone and they're not maybe as receptive as you want them to be. You know, that can really be
that's
tough.
a soul sucker. I'm sure you've experienced this, but nothing worse than going into a meeting and you think you've got a hit in your hand, and you don't play that card very often, where you walk in and go, "All right, Mr. Vice President of the label, here's your next big artist, or here's your next hit song," and they put it on. Have you ever noticed how it always sounds slower and it always sounds pitchy, and all of a sudden you're going, "I hope my deodorant's working."
Right, and you come up to that point where you're not quite sure if it's the perfect lyric, so you talk over it.
And every edit
you hear, and every noise and every crackle, and is it loud enough? Is there enough bass? You know, all this insecurity, you know, creeps in. And it's not me and it's not you, it's everybody. It's like that.
Everybody.
And
the guys, sorry.
That makes it very difficult, you know, because this business is not a business of arriving at a destination. It's this like journey that's just never going to end. Every day you get up, you write a song, you're standing on the edge of the cliff, it's pitch black, you're looking into the abyss, and you go anyway, day after day. And one thing many years ago, a good friend of mine said to me when I brought him an act, he just looked at me and he said, "I can tell it's good, but I just don't get it." Mm. And I've remembered that because that was a real honest answer. And I thought, if everyone would be that simple about it, okay, you don't get it. It doesn't mean your work is bad. It doesn't mean the song is bad. It doesn't mean your production's necessarily bad. But like when I listen to certain types of music, I don't get it. Like some things I just don't get. And it's, you know, you can understand something musically, but if it doesn't speak to you directly, meaning the A&R guy or the licensing person or the person who's trying to, you know, in film and music and TV, they're looking for something that serves the picture. They're not looking for your emotional
They're not looking for a hit.
Thing. Yeah, they don't want a hit. They want something strictly that serves the picture. So they might not get it for what they're looking for. And then when I had, you know, my label deal years ago, it's interesting because I was only looking for certain things. So my mind might have been closed to very good things that I should have, taken. But because I was singular in my focus, just wanting a certain type of artist, or we needed maybe hip hop, or we needed, a country thing or something, I wasn't really, my antenna wasn't tuned to even hear a rock thing. If you can imagine that, because, and I think if we keep that in mind, I try to keep things like that in mind, because there's so much rejection. It's not a rejection of you as a person, and it's not a rejection of you and your music necessarily. It just might not be the right fit. The Beatles got rejected 22 times. I mean,
it's got to be the right thing at the right time for the right purpose.
Yeah, and keep at it. Keep at it. Keep at it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no better advice than keep at it. People want to get instant gratification because we live in an instant gratification world. I was just playing with my phone a second ago because nothing beats being in a meeting when the person you're playing a piece of music for is texting. Yes, honey, I'll pick up milk on my way home. That's always frustrating. But, you
post it on Facebook or Instaface, as Bill Belichick would say, and then all your friends say they like it. Well, why doesn't the executive at the record company like it? Well, he's not your friend.
Yeah.
He's looking at it strictly in terms of business, in some degree of art and things. But, it's tough to bring a song somewhere and expect a record company to invest their money in it.
And their time and their staff.
Right.
It's not just, here's a check, let's put the record out.
Right. It's the record company. In the case of a record company and an artist, maybe they have to invest $1 million in that artist, but that single better break, And then, there's video people, there's merchandising people and marketing people. And then in the film side, you have, the music supervisor, and then the director has to like it. It has to get through layers of people. And, that's just a very difficult thing, and
the stars have to line up, but they do line up. Take hope in the fact that they do line up.
Oh yeah, they do.
And people want to know, well, why did it line up for that person and that song and not me?
Could be chance, but it could be that somebody's just working harder or gets a break.
It's right thing at the right time.
Right thing.
Our members will go on the forum and go and do these analyses, I think is the proper word, of, I made this many submissions.
Is that Latin, analyses?
Yeah.
Do you spell it with a V?
Right, instead of a U. But
is there a U in analyses?
I don't know. People will go on there and say, well, I made this many submissions in this genre, and it took this amount of time. And we get people to ask that question, how many submissions does it take? It could be your first
great
one. It
question.
Could be never.
I got to tell you, that's a great one. It just came up last week. Nate, my partner, Nate, and his wife, Kaylee, great writers. Someone asked him, I've heard it's about quantity. And, should I spend, my time, getting this first song, as good as it can be, or should I, spend the same amount of money trying to get 3 songs complete? And he came up with a great answer. I wish I had it here, but it was something like, the quantity only comes into play when the quality is there. Like, you have to have that. And then when people recognize your brand or you as an artist or a writer as consistently bringing good material in, then the quantity comes into play, and it increases your odds of having success. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's we will get to your questions momentarily. I know we're yammering. Holy smokes! It's 4:18 already.
We're rolling. We are rolling. This is good stuff.
But there's a library. I know many of the music library owners personally. Many of them are friends of mine, and one in particular, people's like, they respect him and hold him in high regard, but they talk about he's really tough. He doesn't take my stuff. It's not that he's tough and doesn't take their stuff because it's not good enough. He won't sign their material and put it in his catalog unless he thinks he can make money with it, because he doesn't want to tie them up. They don't realize.
See, that's a good guy.
Yeah, he's being merciful to them. I know it's a big word, but he is. He's actually looking out for them and going, why should I tie this up when I might get one request every 3 years for something like that? I want to put stuff in my catalog that I'm getting requests for constantly.
Right. And that's a blessing to find someone
Yeah.
that's not going to tie you up or give you false hope about something until there's something maybe meaningful that he can deliver. Like that strikes me as like the perfect guy. Like
He is a really good guy. He's in that small circle. You know me well enough to know that I choose my friends carefully and my industry friends even more carefully because I don't want to associate myself with people who are scumbags. And this guy is a particularly he's got great business acumen. He's very musician friendly, and he conducts business in a very professional and gentlemanlike way. He's
further to that email, there was something about the people in the business, and I find that the longer I'm in the business, it's an interesting thing. If you try to surround yourself, as you have for many, for as long as I've known you, with good people, it changes everything about your life and the way you are able to, have a measure of success because, and I think the business is changing where I'm finding the older I get that there are a lot of really good people around. And I feel like in this environment, it's not like it was 20 years ago where, record deals were relatively easy and the money they were throwing around was large. I think everybody kind of has to be, extra diligent, extra, nice and look out for one another. At least that's what it's been for me, recently, let's say. So I disagree that there are, I don't know if not with you, but in that question,
right.
I think there was something that hinted at, folks in the business being, can you hold that about 10 feet away? I still can't read it. But I think there are great people in the business. The key is to find the people who actually do the work and care about you. And it's not easy. It's like anything else. It's not that easy.
And don't take a public forum. With all the social media that's out there now,
that's so evil.
People go on our forum, on the taxi forum, they go on other forums, they go on Facebook, and they say stuff publicly like, oh, that music library sucks because they didn't accept their work. They're never going to accept your work now, and as well as other companies are going to be unlikely to because they're afraid that you're going to publicly trash them. So just keep a lid on it.
It's interesting.
Smart.
I think we're off to a good start because I have one more thing to add from personal experience, and that is when Nate Cayley and I began doing, as you had suggested, writing for TV and motion picture and advertising. You told me probably in 2003 to start doing it. Well, it only took me about 10 years to get around to doing it. So when we started, we were frustrated. We weren't getting the success that we felt so strongly about the material. And we felt like, almost like I think it's Sisyphus pushing that ball up the side of the hill, and it just gets heavier. And it became an impossible task. So, but what we decided to do is we would get together every, so often, would talk every morning, and we would say, it's not them, it's us. We have to get better. And we would, anytime one of us would whine about something, it's, it's not that. It's that we have to get better. And if we continue to get better a little every day, one day we'll get something. And the goal was to get one placement. And when you get that one, well, then this goal will be to get the next one. And then you maybe have two, and then the goal is to get the next one. But to improve every day, it seems like a simple thing, but it's really, really hard. And to actually look at the rejection as, okay, it's not right for them, and we can make these excuses, but ultimately we got to get better. We have to improve every day. And when we're good enough and consistent enough, then by the law of the universe, something is going to have to materialize. And that was our philosophy. And it took a while.
It has materialized, has it
It
not?
has.